The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
What you and I have to let the man know is we are peaceful people. We are loving people. We love everybody who loves us. But we don't love anybody who doesn't love us. We're nonviolent with people who are nonviolent with us. But we are not nonviolent with anyone who is violent with us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to Melanated Politics. I am Eric Clark.
And I am David Harper.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. We need you guys to call in at 323-815-4204. Look, bottom line, the coronavirus is out of control, Mr. Harper, and President Trump has no answer whatsoever. There has been 5 million reported cases right now. Also, 162,000 deaths in the United States alone. And once again, Donald J. Trump, that snake in the grass, has no answer. I cannot wait to tear off into this, Mr. Harper. How are you today, my brother?
Man, I'm doing well. We got a lot to get into. You mentioned coronavirus, moralizing John Lewis. It's a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it.
Also, the passing of Congressman John Lewis, as well as the passing of former Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain. That is something that we will talk about. Rest in peace to those two men that did so much for their families, and also will have left a legacy in the United States for their friends and for everyone who reads the history books from this day forward. But you know what, Mr. Harper? There's a very big discrepancy and there's a big contradiction and a variation between the Obama presidency and the Trump presidency. That's something we're also going to get off into. But also, I would like to remind our audience how much pride we take in bringing you melanated politics that truly affects the Black community in Los Angeles, in LA County, in the United States, and globally. Shout out to everyone that's been supporting melanated politics from day one. And also shout out to everyone watching us live, not only in the U.S., but in the Caribbean, and also to all my brothers and sisters in Africa that are watching us right now. We hold hands. We stick together. That's one of the reasons why we do this show. We don't do this show to teach anyone anything. We do this show so we can connect with like-minded and melanated individuals, and also we can communicate, so we can play our part on our time on this precious Mother Earth, and make it a better place for those that come behind us. So there's so much to talk about, Mr. Harper. But first, let's go ahead and see what happened this week in Black history.
1965. 6 days of rioting in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles came to an end. It started on the night of August 11th, when a police officer pulled over a car with 2 young black men inside, brothers Marquette and Ronald Fry. A crowd gathered to watch and quickly grew as officers questioned the men. The police presence also grew, and the mother arrived on the scene. A struggle ensued. Police beat the brothers, then they and their mother were arrested. The outraged crowd of onlookers started throwing rocks at police cars, then at passing cars and buses. The unrest soon erupted into pockets of rioting throughout the 20-block area of Watts. The next day, a community meeting was held, urging calm, but the meeting failed, and the outrage and violence intensified. And over the next few days, Watts was turned into an urban combat zone. After 6 days, the violence ended, but it had taken a heavy toll. 34 people died, more than 1,000 injured. nearly 4,000 arrested, and $40 million in damage. Governor Pat Brown convened a commission to identify the root of the riots. 4 months later, a report was issued concluding that the riots were caused by a culmination of black residents' long-standing dissatisfaction with high unemployment, poor housing, and inadequate schools. Despite those findings, little was done in the following decades to address the inequalities or to rebuild Watts.
Hub and a dub, Compton and Watts. Mr. Harper.
The one thing that sticks out to me about that clip, that wonderful clip that you brought to our audience, is that you have a strangling of finances, a strangling of resources to the black community.
Yes, sir.
And when you have that, the natural reaction is to resist and to just express how dire things are. And it's not unfamiliar to what we're dealing with now in so many ways. I think about in Baltimore with Freddie Gray, part of that was had to deal with police brutality, but a big part of that also is because the city of Baltimore was being strangled. And what makes in that particular situation kind of challenging and sad is that the state of Maryland is a highly populated black area, African American, just like Watts, and the state of Maryland, you do have some pockets where you have wealth and you have people with money, but at the same time, Baltimore was never figured out. And with Watts in L.A., ladies and gentlemen, one thing you have to understand: moving to California, me being from the East Coast, moving to California was an eye opener to see how it's only, if I'm not mistaken, 6% black folks in California.
Yes, sir.
But they take so much. That small 6% gets such a boot to their neck or a knee to their back in ways that you wouldn't believe. That small 6%. It's I want to say it's one of the smallest percentages of the black population in a major state, but they get so much heat and so much so much just inequity thrown their way. And it's and the Watts riots, the Watts uprising is a great example of that. People fighting back and saying, look, enough's enough, and we have to make change, but that change still needs to happen.
For all of us that are of a certain age, what happened when you told your mama and your grandmother, Mom, Granny, I went outside today and those boys down the street were picking on me. That boy took my bike. Where's your bike at, Eric? Where's your bike at, David? As hard as I work, I wouldn't spend all that money to go get you a bike. You better go down there and fight. You better go get that bike back. My point is, stand up to a bully. If you don't stand up to a bully in school, what will happen? He will pick on you every day. Now also, on the contrary, if you fight back, whether you lose or win, they will leave you alone. We've always fought back. We fought back in Watts. We're fighting back right now. We have those that are fighting back with us, and you deserve your props and your credit too.
Yes, indeed.
Because you have people that are putting their lives on the line right now. Because at the end of the day, we have the same goals, we have the same purpose, and we all will be judged the same in this particular era in American history as they continue to write the history books. I have so much love for Watts. I lived on 109th, right across the street from the park between Compton Avenue and Central. I've did a lot of hanging out. I have a lot of friends and family in the JDs, the Jordan Downs. I used to be on the big sidewalk, the parolee lock, the whole everything, the Nickerson Gardens, the Haciendas. We called them the PJs. You might call them the Imperial Courts. I'm up out the fantastic city of Compton. My dad was, as my audience knows, I was also raised in Europe. My dad was in the military. My grandmother was a business owner and a proud church-going, kindred spirit type of queen. And being as that, I grew up in Compton as well. We always were tight with all the brothers and sisters from Watts. That's why you're from
PG County, Maryland.
You're from PG County, Maryland.
Prince George's County, Maryland, which is in the DMV, the DC area. And, my introduction to the West Coast was, NWA, Ice-T, Too Short. That was my introduction to the West. Yeah. And living out here now, it's surreal in a lot of ways because you see the dynamic. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been to LA or been to Inglewood or been to South Central, the racial dividing lines is amazing. To where it's like wow, you know what I mean? And it's not different from other racial dividing lines, but the DC area is a little bit different because you got government there, so a lot of opportunities de facto went to black folks through the government. So you had, you got PG County and you got PG County connected to DC, Southeast and Northeast, and then you got Montgomery County, Maryland, and it's different. It's a different type of. Then you got Fairfax, Virginia, which is all the DMV, which is a different culture than out here. Yes. Different culture than out here, but nonetheless, it's it's still amazing being out here and hearing the stories. Me and you rap constantly offline. Man,
we rap like Rakim and KRS-One, man. Offline about this stuff. Yeah. Absolutely.
Offline, and we on some old Big Daddy Kane and Heavy D stuff, you know what I mean?
And I'm fortunate enough to say that when this show subsides and I leave here, I'll be hanging out with some brothers from Watts that, are that age that we're participants in a positive way.
Right, no doubt. No doubt.
Absolutely. So at this time, during this week in U.S. history, something happened called the Watts Riots that were an inspiration to black folk that, we all have to die. Everything that lives will die, whether you live plants, animals, insects, whether it's on land, in the sky, or in the sea. Everything and everyone will die. What will you die for? And how will you die? On your feet or on your knees? Shout out to those that were involved in the Watts riots and all of us from Los Angeles, Compton, Watts, and around the country and everywhere that take pride in this melanin. Let's continue to keep that information out there.
And one thing
on a positive note.
One thing I wanted to say, the thing that's fascinating about the Watts uprising, which was 1965, right? It was 1965. So the thing that's amazing about that time was that's when the year that the Voting Rights Act was signed.
Yes.
And a person that was very instrumental in that movement.
Exactly.
It was John Lewis.
It was John Lewis,
yeah.
And also. We say the word riot, which I don't know if that's actually the correct word, because actually riots happened when they burned down Wilmington, North Carolina, when they burned down Elaine, Arkansas. These were when black folks, not when, but this was at a time when black businesses were at a peak. Elaine, Arkansas, Wilmington, North Carolina, Redwood, Florida, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, when they burned those towns down and killed and tortured the residents. Those were riots. The Watts rebellion is something that we should properly define at all. And like you said so eloquently, my brother, an uprising. Now, what were you saying about that good brother? Rest in power, rest in peace. The congressman from Georgia,
yeah.
By way of Atlanta, John Lewis.
John. Looking at footage of John Lewis the other day, and just thinking to myself, when the other night prepping for this show, I never really heard his speech on the March on Washington.
Yes.
And when I heard it, it's timeless because it goes into the Watts uprisings when you hear his speech. And so for me, you know, when we talk about the Watts Riots in 1965, during that year, it was an uprising for black people altogether, for the black community altogether, and that caused uncomfortability.
Yes.
That caused a lot of uncomfortability for white America, and just like the uncomfortability white America is having now.
Yes.
With different things, and you know, you see it now. We got the NBA back. NBA players are kneeling, and on the court you see Black Lives Matter. It's in their face in a way that they could turn off before, and they almost can't turn it off.
What
now.
about your girl? That's the co-owner of the Atlanta Dream. Your girl.
The co-owner of the Atlanta Dream. Now this is a constant on our show. Donald Trump is my boy, and this woman, I didn't expect to talk about her today, but she's the co-owner of the Atlanta Dream is a
gun-toting, Second Amendment,
and
far-right Republican,
and,
conservative.
And so she's he does this to me all the time, ladies and gentlemen. It's just something that Big Brother does. He wants to get on me with people that have no business being in this conversation. But go ahead. I digress.
But also, John Lewis, my brother. John Lewis was so important to the fabric and the story of America with respect to civil rights and human rights in the 1960s and beyond. His funeral was broadcasted by most of the major networks, and that paid a lot of homage to this great man. But as we do and say around this time, let's go ahead and let the late, great John Lewis speak for himself.
We started organizing. We were able to bring more than 250,000 people to March on Washington. And we all had to prepare a speech. I was very young. 23 years old, had all of my hair and a few pounds lighter.
I have the pleasure to present to this.
When A. Philip Randolph said, I now present to you young John Lewis, the National Chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Brother John Lewis.
I looked to my right. I saw hundreds and hundreds of young people who had been involved during the early days. Looked straight ahead. I saw this sea of humanity. Then I looked to the left. I saw young black men and young white men up in the trees trying to get a better view. And then I said to myself, well, this is it. And I looked straight ahead again. And something said to me, go for it. And I opened my mouth and I started speaking.
We march today for jobs and freedom. But we have nothing to be proud of. The hundreds and thousands of our brothers are not here. But they're receiving starvation wages or no wages at all. Those who have said be patient and wait, we must say that we cannot be patient. We do not want our freedom gradually, but we want to be free now. The time will come when we will not confine our marching to Washington. We will march through the South, through the streets of Jackson, through the streets of Danville, through the streets of Cambridge, through the streets of Birmingham. We must say, wake up, America, wake up, for we cannot stop, and we will not and cannot be patient.
Hi, YouTubers. I'm excited to give you an update about our...
I just had to sit on that for a second because when John Lewis said there's nothing to be proud of, because there's a lot of brothers and sisters who don't have their freedom and who aren't here, who are not working. And
yes, sir.
You could remix that to now and say there's nothing to be proud of because a lot of our brothers and sisters have been killed and locked up by two systems.
Yes.
Created by America.
Yes, sir.
One system was the prison industrial complex. The other system is the starving of opportunity and the flooding of drugs and guns into our community, which in turn, right now, has us acting on survival, our definition of survival. What he represented, what John Lewis represented, was a brick into the foundation of where we need to go as a community, as a people. And we have to get our hands dirty sometimes to put that brick in there, put that foundation in there. Sometimes we do have help. And right now, it looks like we are getting help from all type of ethnicities.
Yes, sir. As we should.
As we should. But that found globally and domestically too. But that brick, those bricks for this foundation that we're trying to build to the ideas of what America is supposed to be, because the idea of this freedom and of this country with opportunity it was just an idea. It wasn't in practice because this country was built on, we talk about this all the time.
Exactly. And who was it an idea for?
Who was an idea for? So his legacy is amazing.
Absolutely. Amazing legacy.
And we're living in the place of where we're going to be. How we're going to be.
What did that brother say? It's called getting into some good trouble.
That was mentioned before we say, I'm about to jump into something. I'm not going to do it right now.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
So I know you guys heard up in Georgia
do it.
In Georgia, it's called Dallas, Georgia. Not Dallas, Texas, Dallas, Georgia, where a high school student, Anna's last name leaves me right now, but Anna basically recorded her high school going, because they went back, they had to have full classes in Georgia.
Oh,
because the Georgia governor, hey, we're going to have classes. We're going to open up, and coronavirus is coronavirus. Yeah. But anyway, she recorded her high school, and she noticed how crowded it was. There was no social distancing, and there was no mask, and she was worried because I'm like, wait a minute.
Was this a predominantly quote unquote African American high school or what?
It looked.
Was it melanated?
It had melanated folks in there. Yes, it had some melanation in there. Yes, it was a lot of white, some melanated. It was a mixture. It was suburbs of Georgia, of Atlanta, and I think the ex-burbs or whatever. But anyway, she had got suspended.
Yeah.
Because they said that she wasn't supposed to, have a video of her, recording her students.
Yes.
But the policy is you can record in the hallways. But she recorded it. It trended. It was trending on Twitter, on social media or whatever. And she got national attention. She didn't mean to let that happen. But the reason why I say good trouble, because that's the definition of good trouble. You point out what is wrong and try to make it right. Facts.
Also, one of the members of the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, if you can recall, we just had the hearings with that other snake in the grass, Attorney General William Bill Barr, and that brother told him, keep John Lewis's name out of your mouth. Now a lot of these individuals, they want to invoke the name and the history and the contributions and the sacrifice of our dear brother, rest in power, John Lewis, but it's all about how you honor someone when they live. Anyone can show up at a funeral crying.
Yeah.
But did you cry when they told you what they were going through when they were alive?
Or did you say it was fake news? Or did you say, well, what about Chicago?
What about Chicago? Yeah. Or pull yourself on by your own bootstraps.
Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps.
Or you people complain too much.
Right.
Or get over it.
Get over it.
It's a long time ago.
Yes.
We gave you a black president.
All lives matter.
Blue lives matter.
Man.
There's my African American.
Oh, yes.
So rest in power to that dear congressman from Georgia, John Lewis, who suffered a beating by the Klan on the Pettus Bridge.
Yeah, Edmund Pettus
on
Bridge.
The Edmund Pettus Bridge,
yeah.
yes. And they're also, as we all know, right now they're in deep discussions with respect to naming that particular bridge after the late, great John Lewis. So let's see what happened with that.
Yes, it's all about legacy. It's going to be very fascinating to see what happens.
Another brother just passed away, as we stated during the intro. Former Republican presidential candidate Herman 999 Cain. Herman Cain. Rest in peace to Herman Cain. A lot of people don't know Herman Cain got to start as a rocket scientist for the Navy before he transitioned into a decade of being a businessman. He worked for Coca-Cola, Pillsbury, Burger King. He was also the National Restaurant Association. He was the head of that. And, also when Herman Cain ran for the presidential nomination, the Republican nomination for the presidency, okay, when he was trying to obtain to be the leader of that political party, he was actually the front runner.
He was. At one point he was.
Until a whole bunch of women folk, a whole bunch of ladies came out and said,
now Mr. 999.
You know what? That 999. He had 900. Rest in peace, Herman Cain.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Rest in peace, Herman Cain. Rest in peace, Herman Cain.
One of the things about Herman Cain running for
I didn't agree with his politics, but Herman Cain left a legacy, and we needed to talk about Herman Cain, especially have a lot of Republicans that watch this show as well.
Why don't they call
and they always say, "Why you don't never give a shot?"
Why they think they're calling it?
And Herman Cain, he did a lot in this country. He's very accomplished.
Yes, he is.
So we decided to go ahead and make sure we made Herman Cain a point of reference, along with the late, great John Lewis. But as far as Herman Cain, let's go ahead and take a look at a video of Herman Cain.
Herman Cain, the former chief of Godfather's Pizza, who launched an improbable run for the White House, has died after contracting COVID-19. Cain attended Trump's June 20th rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, supporting his fellow Republican at an event where thousands of attendees crowded close together, many without wearing face masks, including Cain. He was informed 9 days later that he had tested positive for the coronavirus. By Wednesday, July 1st, he had developed symptoms serious enough to require hospitalization. He said it was unclear when he had contracted the virus. Cain briefly vaulted to the top of the pack of Republican presidential contenders in 2011 on the strength of his catchy 999 tax plan, which advocated replacing taxes with a 9% personal tax, 9% federal tax, and a 9% corporate tax. Cain's rise was short-lived, however. His campaign derailed after 5 different women accused him of sexual harassment, allegations that Cain denied. Last year, Trump floated the idea of Cain serving as a member of the Federal Reserve Board, until it became clear that the sexual harassment allegations against him would likely torpedo his nomination. A statement on Cain's website said, quote, "We're heartbroken, and the world is poorer. Herman Cain has gone with the Lord." Cain was 74 years old.
Okay. Herman Cain was also a member, I believe the chair of the Kansas Chamber of Commerce. Like Eric said, he was accomplished. But one of the most memorable moments with Herman Cain when he was running for president. People say 999, but I got one that's better. When Herman Cain was for our audience in 2011, when the Republicans were trying to take on Barack Obama, they brought out a cast of characters that were just hilarious. Herman Cain was one of the most grounded of them. The 999 was catchy, but one thing that he said when they talked about foreign policy, and he couldn't name the capital of one of the Middle Eastern states or Eastern European countries, and he looked at the interviewer and says, "Do you know the president of Uzbekistan?" He's like, you asking me if I know, but do you know the president of the Uzbekistan? And let me tell you, I fell out laughing, but I understood where he was coming from. And the thing about Herman Cain, another thing about Herman Cain is that he was a Democrat for a long time. In the mid '80s, he changed to Republican.
See what had happened was.
What had happened was it really was about money. He said this on a Karen Hunter show. I saw an interview. I heard the interview that she did with him a couple years back, and it was.
She has a great show.
She has a great show. Shout out to Karen Hunter, and she has a great audience. Really, really insightful show. But when Herman Cain was explaining why he decided to be a Republican, it had to do with taxes. It had to do with his finances. And so I'm sitting back, and we talked about John Lewis, who sacrificed so much. And you have Herman Cain. And right now we're in a presidential election year. And this show is called Melanated Politics for a reason. This is concerning melanated people because we have not only been on the front lines, we've been the casualties of some of the most outrageous policies. We've had the casualties of the building of this country.
The grandfather clause.
So the reason why we're bringing up both John Lewis and Herman Cain in this sense is that I get where Herman Cain was coming from with finances, but then to me there is a morality that comes with being black in this country. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that I don't think that's talked about enough.
Yes.
Herman Cain rode with, all intents and purposes, he rode with Donald Trump till the day he died.
Absolutely.
And when I say he rode with Donald Trump to the day he died, I mean literally.
Until the wheels fell off.
Until the wheels fell off, but it didn't, at least from the outside looking in, from all appearances, that the track of him really having some type of hold or connection to the struggles of the black community. Like, it's great he made all these accomplishments in America. Oh, and real quick, one last note. He often said that, he said this before, that he doesn't consider himself African American. He considers himself black. He considers himself black because his connection isn't to Africa. His connection isn't to Africa. And some people have that prerogative. I get it. But to say that you have a more connection to America than you do to Africa, what is your connection to America? Is it your freedom?
If you take a line out of Africa and put it in a zoo in Australia, is it a lizard now? No, we're still a lion from Africa. Stop it.
Okay, there we go. So with that said, when we look at Herman Cain, we look at Herman Cain and him possibly catching coronavirus at the Oklahoma rally with Trump. Nobody had masks on. Nobody was practicing social distancing. They don't believe it. It's fake news, whatever. He catches coronavirus. They're saying it's not from there, but okay, if it wasn't from there, regardless, he didn't wear a mask. And he dies from coronavirus. He dies from it from complications of it, which is my point. It's sad. He ignored the warning signs, and he was with a man. I don't just want to put it on the party, but
he went to the Trump rally.
He went to the Trump rally, and
soon after
he passed away. But the biggest point, what I'm trying to say is, for melanated people, whether you're black, whether you're Latino, whether you're Caribbean, whatever, whether you're from the diaspora, and you're in this country and you're voting, and you see how things are, you have a John Lewis who risked his life so we could have some type of say and power in this country. He risked his life so we could have a stake in what this idea of America is supposed to be. And then you have a Herman Cain who has some incredible individual accomplishments. I'm not saying he's not an example, but what legacy does he, when you get to that level, what legacy are you leaving? Or should it matter? Maybe we put in too much. Maybe some people aren't built. Maybe some melanated people aren't built to do right and be right. And not saying he was wrong, but he wasn't all the way right.
Yes.
So, I mean, and then, okay, segue here. We got this going on. We got Kanye. Now, Kanye.
So if Kanye gets on the ballot and he decides to officially run, well, David Harper vote for Kanye West. Bottom line. Put it out there in front of America and the world. Are you voting for Kanye West if he gets on the ballot officially?
Hell no.
Yes, sir. You don't knock it
Hell
off.
no. I'm not voting for Kanye West. And the reason, Kanye, I hate to put it this way, is a distraction. And he's a sad distraction because I feel like right now he is just the definition of I don't like using the word.
This man done went from George Bush, does not care about black folk, to having on a MAGA hat at the White House, sounding like Mr. Snuffleupagus, sounding like the Count.
It's you gotta laugh and keep from crying when you watch it.
Sometimes melanated folk, we laugh just so we won't mess around and start crying around here, man.
But let's keep in mind, it's not just Kanye though. You got Kanye who's out there like that, but then you have people like Candace Owens who has a big platform, and then who, like, I feel like black folks, we've had this discussion. Black folks a lot of us are conservative in ways. We're a diverse group, but when it comes to our blackness,
Joe Biden said we're not diverse. He said the Latino community is diverse, and I was talking to one of my dear sisters before we were blessed and lucky enough to be on air right now. Not to change topics, my brother, but a lot of times it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Mm-hmm. And our very last show, we talked about should we trust the Democrats?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And the reason why we said that is because at the end of the day, love it or hate it, accept it or reject it, Joe Biden was right. Most black folk do vote for the Democrats. A lot of individuals, a lot of Latino or Hispanic voters, they vote for Republicans because of taxes, because of
religion.
Religion's
a big part of it.
Pro-choice, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so Second Amendment.
Yes.
Different Republican policies and talking points.
Yeah.
They vote Republican and Democrat,
right.
and for the Democratic ticket.
Right.
As opposed to...
it depends on where.
It depends on, it could be in Texas.
Yeah.
It's different than how they vote in Florida, and et cetera,
and
et
in
cetera.
New York,
so
talking about Puerto Rico,
I don't make any excuses for anyone. I'm neither a Republican. I'm neither a Democrat. I'm not, if anything, I would be more of a, I guess you could say an independent, but at the same time, I think that the only way you can make someone appreciate what you have is to take it away. Take it away, okay, Mr. Harper. Mm-hmm. If we take it away, if we get an app, if we get a website, mm-hmm. if we get on the same page, like a few words and a few commas and a few prepositional phrases, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we get on the same page,
yes.
If we take away our vote as a block and say, you know what, we're not going to vote for the Democrats unless reparations are on the table and other things, because the only policies that are important, brother, are survival and economics. Everything else falls under that. So, who do you think this man will pick for the vice presidency? The reason why I'm asking, my brother, is because he made that statement, and that statement was, some would say, taken out of. I don't want to say some would say. That's what Trump says. Put a name on it. That statement was taken out of context. He didn't express it in an eloquent manner enough for a non-politically astute individual or someone that doesn't follow this type of stuff would pretty much put their arms around it. So do you think the pressure is on Joe Biden, my brother, to pick a melanated or some black folk or a sister as a VP? What are your thoughts on that? As it relates to the statement he just made.
It's been pressure since South Carolina for him to put a black woman on the ballot, because just to be clear, one thing that's evident, the difference in Obama winning the election in 2012 and Hillary losing the election in 2016 were black voters. That's the biggest difference. We're black voters.
Yes.
In 2012, Obama lost white voters, but black voters, and particularly black women, came out to vote, and that's what triggered when you saw that black power. That's what triggered a lot of ways, the engine for Donald Trump. But going back to what you're saying, when Biden lost Iowa and he lost New Hampshire and he came in second in Nevada. Now, granted, Nevada, if it was not a caucus, maybe a general election, he may have won it, possibly. But everything changed once he went to South Carolina because of black voters. So,
and he's supported by Clyburn. And James Clyburn.
James Clyburn. So, and let's just face it.
The congressman from South Carolina. Very, very influential, pivotal. Nancy Pelosi's homeboy. Let's just say it.
Yes.
The Speaker of the House.
She calls him Big Daddy.
From San Francisco.
Right.
My homeboys in the Bay say Frisco, Hunters Point, Fillmore, man.
See, now we're going to a West Coast tangent right here. This is what he does.
You East Coast tripping on Crenshaw, partner?
We're going to do a West Coast tangent here. It's okay. It's all right.
You on Crenshaw, homeboy.
All right. I am on Crenshaw. I know where I'm at. What did Snoop say? I know where I am. Okay, so anyway. Now, let me not go back to Source Awards. We're not going to go back to 95 when he was in New York. We're not going to go back. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that this is a very, very, very tricky election.
Absolutely.
And so, and this ties into your first statement to saying, should blacks trust the Democrats? And if we don't have reparations and everything else on the table. Black people, by and large, and I think we do this more individually than as a unit because we've been fractured since we got here. But black folks in general are going to, some of us are playing the long game, and some of us want the short game now. But bottom line, if you're Biden and the Democrats, and particularly white suburban or even white progressive Democratic voters, the black vote is necessary in trying to find that medium, that mid ground to, okay, I got what's necessary, but I'm looking to get what's also comfortable. Because truth be told, and you can throw Bernie Sanders and other progressives in this, because I've heard them talk about it on other shows. When it comes to reparations, only people that's really talking about reparations in a serious way have been melanated people. Only white person that's really talked about it extensively is Marion Wilson. Oh,
okay. Go ahead.
And then I've heard Castro talk about it. I can go back to 2015 when Bernie Sanders said without hesitation, no, I think reparations is a divisive conversation. And it's supposed to be in a progressive. Now he's down to talk about it now, but deep down inside, we're talking about black people.
Okay.
Start, and that goes and that's not party. That goes to race.
Yes.
And that's a different. That's a battle. And I don't care if you Democrat, progressive, or definitely Republican. You look at when you talk about inequities to black people, because you understand when it's Democrats running, whether you're on the neocon wing or the progressive wing or the middle of the road wing, whatever wing you want to talk about, they always talk about in generalities.
Absolutely.
But when you get down to specifics, they clam up. And don't matter who you're talking about. They clam up because this comes to identity politics. They clam up when it gets to the root. So if Joe Biden is smart, he'll pick. To me, I still think it's most likely. I'm thinking it might be Kamala for different reasons. I do like Karen Bass a great deal.
I love Karen Bass. And shout out to Congresswoman
Karen Bass, and I love Stacey Abrams as well. So those are two women I would like for him to pick. But he's thinking practicality. He's thinking like, okay, practically speaking, I got these suburban.
What about that sister Val
Demings,
who was a police chief? If he picks Congresswoman Val, they can't say the Democrats are anti-police because she was a cop.
Well,
she was a police chief.
Well, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing about it.
I'm just putting it out there.
This thing about it.
Yes.
Val Demings, she was a police chief in Orlando, and evidently in some of her background, Orlando has the police department has some issues.
So they're gonna bring up her past and slay her.
Just like. And they tried to do that with Karen Bass.
They're trying to say all of a sudden she loves Castro, but they have misconstrued her words.
But you have to understand, any melanated woman he brings up there, even if it's Tammy Duckworth, who served and she's a senator out of Chicago,
lost her limbs
for her country
in Iraq,
and they're gonna question her. They're gonna question now the white women that come up. They're going to question them. They're going to question them, but it's not going to be the same way. It's not going to be the same way.
It's not going to be an extreme
character assassination. It's not going to be extreme character assassination. So, Joe Biden, there's no one that's like, bam. Like when Obama chose Biden for what he needed for rural America and for the blue collar guy.
Just say it, man.
Joe Biden was a great pick for him. Uncle Joe was great for him. It was clear. But for Joe Biden, it's not clear in his situation. It's not just that cut and dry. Because right now, what's happening in the Democratic Party is that you have conservative Democrats and middle of the road Republicans that's jumped in the Democratic Party because they can't stand Trump. There is a fraction. So now they're part of the Democratic Party. They're part of wanting to get rid of Trump. And so now he's thinking like, oh, there's conservative, there's progressives, there's black, there's Latino, there's Latinx, there's all of these.
There's also the other Republican organization that's going after Trump.
The Lincoln Project.
The Lincoln Project with Steve Schmidt.
Yeah.
Who's always on MSNBC, who was a former...
He was a consultant. He was a campaign chair for John McCain. And he didn't originally...
And I could see Russia from my house, Sarah Palin.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't want Sarah Palin.
He didn't. Exactly.
No, he didn't. And this is the thing that's very fascinating right now. And this is the reason...
The Democrats got a black man. They had to go get a white woman.
Yeah.
Call a ball, a strike a strike.
Yeah. And
yes.
And the reason why we're talking about this, I know we're getting in the woods on politics, y'all. I know we're getting in the woods, and y'all we're bouncing around here. But the reason why all this is important for melanated people to understand is that the next couple years, the next 2 years, if we get this man out of office, and he's going to fight tooth and nail to stay in there legally because of mail-in voting, the reason why this is important is because this is the first time in my generation where our issues from an economic standpoint is going to be not just economics, but socially when we talk about criminal justice, economics when we talk about housing and opportunity, and we're talking about inequities. This is the first time that these issues are going to be legit
I
on the
think
table.
melanated folk and black folk and most communities around America got too comfortable and too relaxed before Donald Trump. You know, most people are good. Not in America. Why do you, you know, well, how much has the needle moved? Regardless to who we have voted for. I'm one of the most positive individuals you will ever meet in your life. Okay? So I'm not a glass half empty type of individual. I just don't believe in somebody telling me it just rained after you done spit it on me. I wasn't raised that way.
What if it rained at the same time they spit on you?
We may have to do an investigation. But
because if you look at the video,
yes,
it wasn't actual the spit that hit you. It was the rain. You know, they use that same logic with Rodney King. You know, it was like Rodney King was resistant. You know.
Yeah. Well, why didn't he just obey? Why did he resist? Why didn't he just?
That's why it's not spit. It's rain.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you know what? Politics is war. It's just defined as war without bloodshed. So although we're somewhat diverting and discussing different topics within one topic, it's all relative to war, which is politics, which is war without bloodshed. And there was a major difference between the Obama presidency and the Trump presidency. And we want our audience to go ahead and take a look at this.
And we're sure as heck supposed to stand up clearly and unequivocally to Nazi sympathizers.
He said, what do you think of President Obama's speech? And I said, I'm sorry, I watched it, but I fell asleep.
They're undermining our alliances, cozying up to Russia. What happened to the Republican Party?
I found he's very good for sleeping.
When you hear about this economic miracle that's been going on, when the job numbers come out, monthly job numbers, suddenly Republicans are saying it's a miracle.
Next to you and defend her still today.
Household income was near its all-time high, and the uninsured rate had hit an all-time low, and wages were rising, and poverty rates were falling. I mention all this just so when you hear how great the economy is doing right now, let's just remember when this recovery started.
If the Democrats got in with their agenda in November of almost 2 years ago, instead of having 4.2 up, I believe honestly you'd have 4.2 down. You'd be negative.
Not as an ex-president, but as a fellow citizen, I'm here to deliver a simple message, and that is that you need to vote because our democracy depends on it.
And then I have 2 more pages, just like this, look, okay? But isn't this much more exciting than listening to President Obama? Because we get things done.
One of the contrasts of those two presidencies are, number one, President Trump did not attend John Lewis's funeral. When being confronted about that, you know what he said, my brother. He didn't go to John Lewis. President Trump said that John Lewis did not attend his inauguration. Okay, he also said that the late, great Senator John Lewis was basically an anti-Trump person. And then he had the audacity to say that he has done more for black folk than John Lewis and everyone else, with probably the exception of Abraham Lincoln. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so
what's the difference between those two administrations, brother, while we have this little bit of time?
The biggest difference between the Obama administration and the Trump administration is President Obama really highlighted a direction the country needed to go into. He couldn't go as far as he wanted to, not even in his own party, but it's really an acknowledgement of where the country needs to be under President Obama and wanting to pass the Affordable Health Care Act, getting a deal done with immigration reform, but not being able to pass it in the House of Representatives because at the time it was all Republican, and wanting to do more he had a jobs bill. He had a bill where he wanted to, redo the roads across, particularly in the Midwest. If anybody's been in the Midwest and in the South, but particularly in the Midwest, when you get the harsh weather, the roads are really bad, and there's work to be done year round.
Yes.
Government work that needs to be done year round that's just not done nearly enough for all the wear and tear. But basically, in a nutshell, Obama was trying to transform the country figuratively and literally, and have government work in a particular way. President Trump was a backlash to that. The difference in President Trump's presidency and Obama's presidency is that President Trump is coming from a place of where many, I can't put a number on it, but where white Americans of a certain ilk see this country in a particular way, where being a bully or being just authoritative,
yes,
is America, and not just towards melanated people, but towards other people of the world. It's about being number one and being on top by any means necessary, whether it's letting police do what they want to do and not reforming, whether it's basically cutting deals that don't benefit the whole, but benefit some, and that some are the, whether they're rich and powerful or whether they're like the steel industry. When they started doing the tariffs, steel industry was excited about it, but them tariffs hurt farming. It hurt people with different intellectual properties that sell overseas. There's so many different things where his mentality and the mentality of people that support him is very singular. But that singular mentality, that singular thought, got him into the presidency. Partly to do with who we had as the Democratic nomination, but yeah, those are the biggest differences. If everybody got that, one is a look forward in the best part of America, and one is the underbelly of forgetting of what the ideals of America are and moving into a more authoritative, hey, it's my way or the highway, imperialistic type of mentality. And some people like that. There are people that like that, and sadly enough, there are melanated people that like that. When I first moved to California, I moved to Inglewood, and our landlord, I think her name was Letty, and Letty was Latina, and had no idea. We didn't talk politics, but one day right before we were moving out, she said something about, I can't believe that there's, because she's Latina. I think she's of Mexican descent. I don't know if she's from we're in South America, but I believe she's Mexican descent. She was like, I don't believe there was us that voted for him. There was us that voted for him. There was Latinos that voted for him, and it drove her crazy. And for her, it's probably different reasons. For us, for Black people, our reasons are different because our history in this country is different than Latinos. So of course it's gonna break in different ways. But I remember when he got elected, there was tears. There was a lot of people didn't think it could happen. But it also showed that a sexist, homophobic, racist guy who, basically who, wasn't a great businessman but talked a good game could become president.
Does that say more about Donald Trump, or does that say more about America?
Of course it says more about America than it says about Donald Trump. It says way more about America. says way more about America. Because if a black man, a melanated person, if they're black, Latino, if they are not Anglo or white looking, if we were to try to run for presidents with 3 baby mamas
and three different,
5 kids, 3 baby mamas,
sexualize his daughter in a conversation,
and went through bankruptcy, at least 6 times, we wouldn't be able to get on the ballot.
The comment he made on the access situation,
Hey, but he got
the so-called Central Park 5.
The exonerated 5.
The exonerated 5. Thank you, brother. The lawsuit he had where black folk couldn't obtain a place to stay on Donald Trump properties. The fact that his pops Fred was arrested at a Klan rally in 20 or 21.
It is what it is. It is what it is. It's America. But like with Obama getting into office, who went to Reverend Wright's church and was able to win with a serious melanated sister, it was possible for a man like Trump to get into office.
And you know, one of the biggest differences between the Obama presidency and that snake in the grass, Donald Trump's presidency, is President Obama, the first melanated black president of these United States, had his inauguration speech behind bulletproof glass. That's the difference. Thank you for watching Melanated Politics. Shout out to everyone that have been tuning in since our first show. We're lucky enough and blessed enough to be coming upon our 2-year anniversary. I don't say this enough. Man, I'm glad I met you, David.
Glad I met you too, bro.
Glad I met you.
Yes,
I met this brother, David, doing political work.
Yes.
David and I were doing the same type of intensified political work.
Yes.
And we had an opportunity to put together a show. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Melanated Politics, melanin, and melanated people are the essence of the universe.
Yes.
I have a lot of brothers that I communicate with. Christians, Muslims, Moors, Hebrew Israelites, 5%ers, gods and earths, atheists. You know, shout out to all the sisters and all the women who don't get enough props, okay, in this movement. We show a lot of videos of brothers being assaulted and terrorized and these different types of things, but shout out to all the sisters. Because you know what, whether we know it or not, women go through way more than what men go through.
Yes, indeed.
We just don't understand.
Yes.
So this show is dedicated to all the sisters out there that are on the front lines now, have always been on the front lines, and will always be on the front lines. For David Harper, I'm Eric Clark. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for watching Melanated Politics
here on Morris Media Studios. Thank you so much.